want to talk about this idea that love is all you need. You know the Beatles song, and I love the Beatles. Well, I acknowledge the Beatles. I can't say I'm actually a big fan, and they never really did it for me. There are a couple groups like them and the Rolling Stones. Never got the big deal about the Rolling Stones. I know people said the Beatles music, there is something interesting about it. One person once told me it's like classical musicians would find that the Beatles rock music actually conforms to the rules of classical musicianship, which is just amazing if you ask me. I mean, really, that's just incredible. But they never, I like some of their songs. I know their songs. I can hear them in my head, but I'm just never, can't say Beatles. Yeah. I'm more like the Smashing Pumpkins, Nirvana, Eminem and Tupac, Biggie, Notorious B.I.G., and other groups, and also a lot of folk artists. I really like that stuff, like Paul Simon and etc. But, and Phil Oakes. But anyway, I just want to say that, all that said, all you really need is love. Well, I went to a university where they were really, into peace. There were a lot of students from Japan there, and anyway, in the mission, the thing they talked about there was peace. Being leaders for tomorrow, and trying to create harmony, environmental harmony, and all this fun stuff, and be leaders for a new tomorrow. And so anyway, one day, this is well into several years into the 4-year experience, and I was sitting at the cafeteria with one of my few friends I made there for at least for a little while, and his name was Gabriel, and he was from Ghana in Africa. And so anyway, we were sitting there together, and we were like eating away, and they were talking about peace or something, and he looked up and he said, I don't want peace. I want equal rights and justice. And everyone was just sort of like, I remember, I didn't say anything. I was like, huh? It's like, and he said, well, it's very possible to have peace and not have equal rights and justice. And face it, we're always going to be bickering and fighting with each other, and I'd much rather see people with equal rights and justice fighting than have peace with no equal rights and no justice. And I'm an asshole. I like to think I'm pretty smart, but I hadn't ever thought of that before. My experiences hadn't really led me to conclude that before, but it struck me that what he was saying was completely true. And as usual, you can't say truth without getting penalized for it, apparently. So every Eastern student around him just, at that moment, they just went head over heels, saying, no, peace always includes equal rights and justice. You can't have peace without it. And he says, oh, but I've seen peace without it. And they just fell all over each other, hearts in their hands. No, that's not the way it is. And they even invited him to a special meeting, a Buddhist meeting. He was Christian. He was a straight biblical Christian. They went to that meeting with an open heart, and he came out, and I didn't see him for 3 or 4 days. And then I asked him, what did they say at that meeting, Gabriel? And he wouldn't speak about it. So, I just was saying, all you really need is love. Well, is that all you really need?